Since I like going back and listening to my old thoughts, I'm currently in the process of re-uploading some of my older videos in order to make them more compliant with YouTube's policies on reused content. But since I didn't want to do a lot of editing, here is the audio from my original review for this movie. After the events of Justice League, Arthur Curry is now embracing his more heroic side. He's gaining quite a positive reputation with the humans on land, but the same isn't true with his ancestors hidden beneath the ocean depths. Curry's half-brother Orm is determined to proclaim himself as King of Atlantis and declare war against humanity, but the only thing standing in his way is his brother's birthright to the Atlantean throne. Now, no movie is perfect, and this one is no different, so let's discuss some of the pros and cons of Aquaman. Some pros: the titular hero. Like Wonder Woman, Aquaman is a simple singular narrative that focuses solely on the journey of its titular character. Arthur Curry is caught between a surface world that doesn't seem to care much for nature and sea life, and his underwater ancestors who are ready to wage war. Watching Arthur grow from being a surfer bro into a responsible man willing to save two different worlds is emotionally gratifying, and Jason Momoa plays the character excellently. Patrick Wilson. Wilson clearly gets along with director James Wan, and he portrays Orm with a great sense of conviction. Orm may be enraged with the state of the world, but he has a far more personal vendetta against his half-brother. I found Orm's motivations for wanting to wage war against humanity to be a little weak, but I absolutely loved his connection to Curry. Wilson has great chemistry with Jason Momoa, and I believe their relationship as brothers. The two brothers don't want to necessarily harm each other, but they have to due to certain circumstances. I just love their connection together, and I honestly hope we get to see their relationship expand in the future. The remaining cast. The rest of the cast also does a fine job. Tamira Morrison, Willem Dafoe, Dolph Lundgren, and Amber Heard all give solid performances, but none of them particularly stand out. I enjoyed the presence of each and every one of these actors, but none of them ever do anything memorable. Except for Amber Heard's character Mara, who manages to somehow stab people with water at one point. Nicole Kidman at least has a warm presence as Arthur Curry's mother, Queen Atlanna, and I thoroughly enjoyed the connection Atlanna had with her sons. But I do have some questions about her survival techniques. Also, why has Curry's view on his mother changed so radically since his time in Justice League? Oh right, this is a DCEU film. It doesn't matter. James Wan. I've been a fan of James Wan ever since his directorial debut with Saw. I just love how he can utilize the physical space of his sets to create a certain mood. In Saw, the singular bathroom setting made for a claustrophobic atmosphere. And in Furious 7, the wide open locations allowed Wan to have more freedom with his camera and experiment more during high octane action sequences. So you better believe that Wan definitely utilizes the setting in Aquaman to heighten the dramatic tension of a scene. Two action scenes that particularly stood out to me include a fight during the first few minutes of the film and a chase sequence in Italy. But what's even more impressive than how Wan handled the action scenes is how he handled the film's tone. In pop culture, Aquaman has always been viewed as something of a joke. I mean, his superpower is basically the ability to talk to fish. It just sounds inherently silly. And while watching grown men talking underwater while riding on the backs of sharks and seahorses is admittedly silly as all hell, you can take the scenes seriously because of how invested you become in this fantasy underwater world. Aquaman is a movie that knows how to take itself seriously while still having lots of fun. The stakes feel real and personal, but the tone is still joyous and optimistic. We can finally say goodbye to the dreary and cynical tone set by the earlier DC films. And thankfully, we can also say goodbye to the dark and drab aesthetic as well. The colors in Aquaman are wonderfully warm and lively. Don Burgess did an excellent job on the cinematography, and his use of colors was integral in making the city of Atlantis come to life. I haven't been this impressed with underwater sequences since I've seen the hidden Gungan city in The Phantom Menace. The message. I enjoyed how writers David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick and Will Beall attempted to include a message about pollution and how humanity should be taking better care of the planet. It wasn't exactly a subtle message, but at least it wasn't too in your face either.
I appreciate that a movie within a cinematic universe like the DCEU at least tried to have some social commentary. Their script may be a bit simple, but it is a massive improvement over earlier DC screenplays, which is impressive coming from a pair of writers who previously worked on Wrath of the Titans and Gangster Squad. And this brings me into some cons, because Aquaman does suffer from having a predictable story. Much of Aquaman feels like a cross between The Lion King and Black Panther, just with a new underwater setting. Jason Momoa's charm may make it easy to give the simplistic narrative a pass, but that doesn't make up for the fact that you can tell exactly how this film is going to end before it even begins. The script shines more when it focuses on the relationships Arthur Curry has with others, and less when it focuses on chasing down a trident MacGuffin. The VFX. Aquaman uses an overabundance of CGI. Some of it looks pretty good, but certain scenes do look like they could have been polished up a bit. But even more disappointing is the use of practical effects. I was just very let down by Aquaman's costume designs. I don't care what anyone has to say. Black Manta and the Atlantean police force look like silly Power Ranger villains. Speaking of which, Black Manta. I did like Black Manta, but I don't think he was quite relevant in this narrative. I enjoyed how his presence taught Arthur Curry that every action bears a consequence, but he takes a back seat to the more prominent villain, Orm. I just wish the film had given him time to fully develop as a character, instead of just giving him a weird training montage where he constructs his villainous costume. Manta's connection with Curry is personal, so I just wish his character and his storyline was saved for a future film. Hopefully, we can see more of him in a potential sequel, if one ever does get greenlit. The world. I have lots of questions about this world. Like, how much does the public know about Atlantis? Or better put, why doesn't the public know more about Atlantis? Everyone knows about aliens and metahumans and enchantresses and googly-eyed monsters and crocodile men and cyborgs and even gods, but Atlanteans are too far-fetched to believe in? And if humanity doesn't even know about the Atlanteans' existence, then why is Orm so pissed off at them? He couldn't just expose himself and have a civil conversation about how he doesn't like that humans pollute the waters and have an utter disregard for sea life? He had to go straight for the wage war on them approach? Wouldn't anyone immediately see through that plan as a pathetic attempt to achieve Ocean Master status? And wouldn't Curry's plan to warn humanity about an oncoming invasion be more responsible than following an old fairy tale to a trident MacGuffin? Or am I just being too picky here? No, I don't think so, because being picky is admitting that I didn't like the movie's taste of music. Now, to be fair, I did enjoy Rupert Gregson-Williams' original score, like, a lot, and I honestly think it's one of the best scores in the entire DCEU, but I'm referring to the film's soundtrack. Aquaman is a cool surfer bro, of course, so his movie just has to feature cool pop songs. Well, it doesn't. Aquaman features a song by Pitbull that has one of the worst samples of Toto's Africa that I have ever heard. I'm sorry, Skylar Grey, but your emotional song just got overshadowed by Mr. Worldwide. But all jokes aside, this is how the DCEU should have started in the first place. Focusing on character-driven narratives first, so that audiences can grow attached to said characters, and not immediately forcing an interconnected universe on us. Because I may not care much for the DCEU as a whole, but I very much enjoyed Aquaman on its own rights. And I would probably give Aquaman 3 3/4 out of 5 stars. Thanks for watching.